Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to give you a tour of the Stream page of your Google Classroom, the settings that are associated with that page, and some considerations for why and why not you may want to use certain settings. So when you click on your class in Google Classroom, it takes you automatically to the Stream page. So that ends up being sort of like your landing page. And you'll notice underneath your course title and section number and any of those other details that you've included, you'll have this class code. So if you click on the display button right next to it, it displays the class code in a large font size. So that way, if you are teaching in a blended or in face-to-face setting, you can have this up on the screen in the first few days of school and get your students enrolled in your classroom. Likewise, if you had a welcome back to school night with younger kids, you could be working through this with parents and actually show them the organization of your classroom and how you plan to use it. So that's where your code is. The next thing you'll see on this banner is you can select a theme. So there are a lot of ones that are in here that you can choose from, so you can explore those to see which one you might want. Alternately, you can upload a photo, which is sort of like what I did in our Getting Started with Google Classroom course. Just know you may need to resize your photo to make it fit how you want it to look. Okay, the next thing you'll see here on the left-hand side is upcoming, and it says no work due soon, right? And so that is basically any assignments that you've created from the classwork page, which we're going to talk about in the next module, but any assignments that have due dates will show up there, especially as they're upcoming. Now, the next thing you're going to see is this kind of text box where I can share something with my class. I like to reserve the Stream page for important announcements that I want to make sure that my students know and that they see. So here, as you are creating an announcement, and I'm just going to create a test announcement, I can attach anything I want to this. I can attach something from my Google Drive, I can attach a link, I can attach a file from my computer, or even a YouTube video. Additionally, you'll notice here it says for, and I can choose multiple classes. So if I'm teaching multiple sections of the same class, I can create one announcement and I can, check all of those boxes. Additionally, I can choose specific students that this goes to if I want. The next thing you'll notice here is I can just go ahead and click this post button, which would automatically post it. Or if I click the drop down, I can schedule the post, so I can maybe create some announcements over the weekend that I want to go out later in the week. So I can go ahead and schedule them. Alternately, I could save a draft. I tend to use the save a draft option quite a bit because I might have an idea for something that I need to tell my students, but I'm not quite ready to think through how I want to phrase everything, and so I save a draft so I remember to do it later. So you can kind of do any of those things that you want. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and post this one so you can see. When I do this, and I'm going to actually post a second one here, any of my announcements are going to appear by the most recent announcement. So I'll just go ahead and show you this with a test, another test. And so when I post it, the most recent one is at the top, which makes sense. But there might be some that you want to make sure are kind of staying at the top. And what you can do is you can click the drop down on the announcement and you can move it up, right? So you can move it up to the top and that would let you reorder it. Additionally, these settings will let you delete. So if you didn't want the post to be there anymore, you can delete it. So I'll just go ahead and show you that. Just going to go ahead and delete it, and now the post is deleted. And I'm going to show you a setting here in just a second. I have hidden my deleted posts because usually if I'm deleting something, I don't want it anymore. But there may be times when you want to see that post again, but there are some limitations associated with that right now. So there are two final things that I want to show you before we go over to the settings here. So you might be wondering, okay, well, what happens when I save a post? What does that look like? So here's another test post, and I'm just going to go ahead and save it. So once I do that, you'll notice that there are saved announcements now. So if I click the drop down next to it, I will see the save announcement that I just created. And if I just go ahead and click on it, I can now edit it. Alternately, if I wanted to just get rid of it, I can click this trash can here. The last thing to show you is that, you can actually reuse posts from other classrooms. So maybe you forgot to assign it to multiple classes, or you got to thinking about it later and you thought, maybe that class would need that as well. I can go ahead and reuse a post. So I can go and find it, and I can just go ahead and click reuse. If there was something attached to it that was a Google Doc or something like that, I can create a new copy of whatever that attachment is, or I can just use that same copy from the other classroom. So the last thing are the settings. And when you click on the settings gear in the top right corner, the first thing that you're going to see are your class details. So know that you can always change those. This is the first thing that you did when you created a classroom. The next thing are going to be the general settings. So you have your class code that's shown here. And I wanted to show you this specifically because you can disable this class code. So maybe everyone has already enrolled in your class for the semester. You can go ahead and disable it so that way no one else can enroll in your class. Now, you may be wondering, well, what happens if I have a new student? Well, you can easily just enable the code again. And so it will actually, as you notice here, automatically generated a new code. So there's a new code sitting there. And you can go ahead and get that student or students enrolled, and then you can always disable it again. And I would recommend disabling it just so no one enrolls in your class without you knowing, and then, who knows what could happen. I'm just thinking about the middle school students that I used to teach. The next setting on your general settings is your stream settings. And there are three options here. So students can post and comment, which would allow students to create their own announcements on your stream and comment and reply to each other or to your announcements. Students can only comment, which would mean that students can only comment on your announcements. And then only teachers can post or comment, which would only allow you to post anything on the stream. And I would just think about your classroom and how you want to use this page. Like I've mentioned, I use this page as an announcements page. I want to make sure my important announcements are, distributed widely to students and that they see them. So I usually do either only teachers can post or comment, or students can only comment. And the reason I do that is because, again, the posts are going to post in most recent post order, which could mean that my important announcements get moved to the bottom because students have been posting. So you might be wondering, okay, well, if I allow them to comment or I allow them to post and comment, what happens if there's an inappropriate comment? So let me show you an example here. So I have a student who has typed in the word inappropriate, which is what I'm calling my inappropriate comment. And I have the option to reply to that student, or I can mute that student. So when I mute the student, I get this pop-up, and it basically tells me that they cannot, reply to anyone else. They cannot make any more comments. And it will also allow me to check this box to delete the comment. So you can do that. Now, again, this is another important reason that you would want your overall classroom settings to be sending you notifications about comments if you're allowing students to comment. But I can mute them, and when we are in the people module, I can show you that you can actually unmute these students, which is a good thing because maybe you want them to be able to comment later on. So you can go in and do that, but it will delete their post. So again, when you are, deciding on your stream settings, just know your students. I would recommend probably the last two here, but again, your classes, your students. We're going to come back to these settings when we look at the discussion questions from the classwork page, because these will affect those, unfortunately, right now as well. Now, the next one here, and I'm going to show you an example of each of these settings here in just a second, but I always hide notifications from the classwork page. So basically what this means is anything that you put on the classwork page, so it could be any material, assignments, whatever, will post onto the stream. And I usually hide those notifications because not only will it, kind of generate an email to students, but also it takes away from the important announcements that I've put on the classwork page, because just like when you intentionally post on the stream, anything from the classwork page will post in the order that it was posted. So I hide these notifications, but let's just go ahead. I'm going to show you what this looks like right now. So if I show attachments in details, this is essentially how it will look on the stream. And so that's going to show a full post. And so as you can see, it's hard to see where my actual announcements are and where all of those notifications from the classwork page are. Now, let's change the setting to show condensed notifications. And we'll go back, and this is kind of what it looks like. A little bit of an improvement, but not that much better. And still, it's hard to figure out where my announcements are. So that's kind of why I hide notifications from the stream. There are other people that are huge advocates for putting it there, but especially I think if you're teaching in a blended or even a distance environment, I recommend keeping that stream open for your announcements and not your classwork. Okay, and now this last setting I was talking to you about, show deleted items. So you can show deleted items. It would only show to you as the teacher. But what I want to show you here is, so once I save that setting, there's this little question mark next to the announcement that was recently deleted. And as you'll notice, it says this post is visible to all teachers in this class. It will be permanently deleted in 30 days. So if you deleted it because your stream was getting too long and you wanted to make sure students only focus on the really important things, just know that it's only going to be there for 30 days. It's not going to stay there forever. So if it's something that you might want to go back to in later years or semesters as something that you want to inform your students of, you're probably not going to want to delete it. So just know that. And if you do hide those deleted items, it'll just be whatever your students actually see. So if you're using your school district account, you're going to notice that there are two additional options here under the general settings that we don't have on personal accounts. So the first option is Guardian Summaries, and we are going to talk about that during the People module. The second one is Google Meet. And this basically allows you to have a, synchronous video conferencing call with students, a group of students, your whole class, maybe individual students, right from within Google Classroom. And the way it's supposed to work is you're supposed to be able to just click this button, generate link, and generate the link. Now you can then make it visible to students, and when you do that, it'll put the link at the top of your stream or on the classwork page. So they'll see it here with this little button, and when you have designated a time to meet, this is where you will meet. Now there have been some issues that I've experienced with teachers who have been using this, and one thing to note, that it is really important that you are the last person out of the meeting. If you are not, students essentially could reuse that meeting. The other thing is you don't want to add this meeting link to Calendar if you've scheduled a meeting in Calendar with your students. Otherwise, they'll be able to probably reuse it. There are some additional IT-related things that I have been reading about that could be problematic. It could prevent your students from even seeing the link, or it could allow them to just keep reusing it. So if you experience anything like that, and when you're trying to use these, just let me know, and I can always help you out and tell you, what you need to say to your IT people. The other thing is you can make it not visible to students when you're not meeting, so that could help prevent some things there as well. Now, if you kept scrolling onto the settings, you'll see some grading settings. We're not going to talk about those until we get to the grades module, but we will come back to those later. So now it's time for you to go update some of your settings, decide what you want to do, and complete the assignment for the stream module.